had that with P. Diddy. I went over to say hello to P. Diddy, and Jay-Z was there, and Leonardo DiCaprio was sat.
Oh, I think you've dropped enough names.
Room, 2 floors below him, directly below, and saw the body fall through. Looking out the window, saw the body fall, and obviously heard the aftermath.
Heard your interview earlier. You met P. Diddy and Jay-Z. Is that the coolest moment? Is that the coolest moment?
Well, these two went to a gangster party.
Yeah, full of watches and big. He would always message me ever since we broke up, like, oh, I'm not well. He would always play with death and be like, well, I'm gonna die. I'm not doing well.
There's some stuff that I've definitely like never spoken about to do with it that was really severe. It was only until I saw myself after that I was like, right, I need to fix myself. So at a certain point I thought, well, I'm going to have a party for one. And that just seemed to carry on throughout.
Fell 3 floors from a hotel balcony. Pictures then taken inside showed the damage he'd done and the empty packets of over-the-counter drugs. Saying he'd been drinking and taking drugs alone in his room.
I saw him in Get Him to the Greek. I'm going to go over there and say hello to him. So I thought, P. Diddy. So I went out to shake his hand. And I shook his hand and I was like, oh, nice to meet you. And he's just going, with the longest handshake ever. He did his eyes like, when is this going to end? and then the worst of it happened. There was a whole thing with Jay-Z and I went to lean in to speak to him. But you can't lean in to speak to Jay-Z. You're not allowed to.
Girl, did you hear about 50 Cent calling out Diddy? The streets are saying it's all about Liam Payne getting sacrificed in the music game. But wait. How does a One Direction heartthrob get mixed up with these hip-hop heavyweights? We're about to spill some piping hot tea on this wild industry drama. 50 is not holding back, and Diddy's reputation is on the line. You don't want to miss this explosive story that's got everyone talking.
Liam Payne, the 31-year-old, died after falling from a 3rd-story hotel balcony in Buenos Aires, Argentina. In a statement, they said in part, quote, we're completely devastated by the news of Liam's passing. In time and when everyone is able to, there will be more to say. For now, our thoughts are with his family, his friends, and the fans who loved him alongside us. We'll miss him terribly. We love you, Liam. Signed, Louis, Zayn, Niall, and Harry. Meanwhile, there are troubling new details surrounding his death. A preliminary autopsy report reveals the singer died from multiple...
Girl, did you hear about 50 Cent calling out? The streets are saying it's all about Liam Payne getting sacrificed in the music game. But wait, how does a One Direction heartthrob get mixed up with these hip-hop heavyweights? Everyone talking.
They're part of the band One Direction. Most people know him from that. But he fell from a hotel balcony several feet up in Buenos Aires. And now there is a 911 call that's offering more details about what actually happened. We have the clip right here. I'm going to play it for you. It's in Spanish, but you'll be able to see the translation here as well. Let's look at this clip.
Hola, buenos días. Recién llamé que se me acordó. Llamo del Hotel Casa Sur Palermo, Costa Rica 6032.
¿Qué sucede en el lugar, señor?
Bueno, tenemos un huésped que está sobrepasado de droga y alcohol y cuando está consciente está rompiendo toda la habitación y bueno, necesitamos que manden a alguien, por favor.
Bajo efectos de alcohol y estupefaciente, ¿no, señor?
Sí, correcto.
Me dijo Costa Rica, ¿a qué altura, señor? Discúlpeme.
Costa Rica 6032.
Esto pertenece a Capital, ¿no? Entre Arevalo y Kramer.
Sí.
¿Hotel, me dice? ¿Cómo se llama el hotel?
Casa Sur Palermo. Y necesitamos que nos envíen a alguien urgente porque, bueno, yo no sé si corre riesgo la vida del huésped. Está en una habitación que tiene balcón y, bueno, estamos un poco con temor de que haga algo que le ponga en riesgo su vida. ¿Hace cuánto que está ahí o es un hotel de vivienda? No, es hace 2 o 3 días que está acá.
Comprendo, no sabría ningún dato porque no pueden ingresar, ¿no?
No.
Notificamos a lo que es el personal de SAME. ¿También escuchó?
Sí, lo que yo te pido es que venga alguien urgente.
Now, a lot of information coming in there. They know he's destroying the room, but they can't get in. And they also mentioned the balcony, which is kind of weird. Why are they worried about? Did something get mentioned through the door? A lot of details still coming in, but this is the room. Allegedly, this is the room. And now TMZ, or I guess it's New York Post, reporting, showing some images of the destruction from the room. So that is apparently what happened, is he was destroying this room. I can't show you all the paraphernalia that's all over, but there was paraphernalia on the floor. I imagine they'll be all over, breaking down what fingerprints, etc. I don't see anybody trying to imply any sort of foul play. But yeah, he was trashing the room before the balcony fall, and the hotel staff clearly was worried, knowing there was a balcony there, that it could get worse. That call was before.
Girl, let's break down who's who in this messy situation. We've got 50 Cent and Diddy, two hip-hop heavyweights who've been beefing for years. These guys ain't just rappers. They're full-on moguls with empires that stretch way beyond music. 50 Cent, aka Curtis Jackson, came up from the streets of Queens and turned his rap career into a whole business empire. He's got his fingers in everything from TV shows to vodka, and let's not forget he's always ready to stir up some drama on social media. The man's got no filter, and that's why we love him. Now, Diddy, or Sean Combs, or whatever name he's going by these days, has been running the game for decades. Bad Boy Records, Ciroc Vodka, clothing. This man's got more businesses than he's got stage names. But lately, the streets have been whispering about some shady dealings behind the scenes. But hold up. How does Liam Payne fit into all this? Last time we checked, he was crooning love songs with One Direction, not spitting bars with the rap elite. This is where it gets interesting. Liam's been trying to make it as a solo artist since 1D split, but it hasn't been smooth sailing. Word on the street is that Liam's.
No, what we've heard in that 911 call is that the hotel staff feared for Liam's safety. It's not necessarily their responsibility to intervene, but they turned to those whose responsibility it would be. In one sense, this is an all too familiar scene, a pop star alone in a hotel, perhaps turning to alcohol or other substances, but also inflicting a little damage on the hotel room. That's one thing we've learned from that 911 call. And that's a familiar story. What happened next and what ultimately happened, the tragedy of what happened, well, it's a little too familiar, but it is not the way things usually go. And it's devastatingly sad because this 31-year-old man leaves behind a 7-year-old child and, as we were hearing earlier, has been famous for more than half his life and globally famous. This is a huge loss for a very engaged generation of pop fans.
And I think what's also clear is that he himself was very open, and we saw a bit of that in Max's report about his struggles in the past with addiction, with mental health, with bullying online, with some abuse. It sort of highlights the fact that you can be incredibly famous, successful, wealthy, beautiful, but in the end you're still human and you still have a human heart, and you can still really struggle and feel very alone at times.
That is all too true. We're talking about someone who, as a child, struggled with health issues. He had kidney problems. At 12 years old, took up boxing because of bullying he had suffered at school. So in some sense, what he talked about, the bullying he felt online once he was an adult and a star, the sense of isolation, his mental health struggles, his substance abuse struggles, these were things that had been with him for quite some time. It is all too true that although pop stars are enormously famous and adored by millions and millions of people, they are often very isolated. They're under intense pressure. They're subject to extreme isolation and great deal of boredom. And it is very, very difficult for these young people.
Yeah, I think there's a message in there very quickly about the pressure that's put on children, quite frankly, in this industry, but in other industries, and whether or not, particularly when things end, and obviously the band broke up many years ago now, but what happens when some of that fame dissipates, some of the success dissipates, but you're still a person of interest. But also I think they need to reach out to anybody around you that you know could be struggling, whether they're calling you or not.
I think that's absolutely right. This is a pop star, and this is someone who is enormously famous and wealthy and still struggles with these issues. But we see many people around us in our lives, in our families, who struggle with similar issues. And we do need to reach out to those people at moments like this. It's a particularly vulnerable and difficult time for those who might struggle with depression, who might struggle with some substance abuse issues, when someone famous has tragically passed in this manner.
Now here's where 50 Cent comes in. He's been watching all this play out, and he's not buying it. 50's got a nose for BS, and he thinks something fishy is going on between Diddy and Liam. He's been dropping hints on social media, calling out Diddy for using young artists, and then tossing them aside. But what could Diddy possibly gain from sacrificing Liam's career? That's the million-dollar question, honey. Some folks are saying it's all about control and power in the industry. Others think it might be a way to launder money or cover up other shady dealings. Whatever it is, 50 Cent seems convinced it's not on the up and up. The first hint of this alleged manipulation started popping up when Liam's career took a nosedive right after he started associating with Diddy. Suddenly, his music wasn't getting the same push, his social media presence dwindled, and he wasn't booking the big gigs anymore. It's like he went from pop royalty to industry out overnight. People started connecting the dots when they saw Liam at Diddy's parties, looking lost and out of place. There were whispers about bad contracts, promises of collaborations that never materialized, and Liam being pushed into an image that just didn't fit. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion, and 50 Cent is the one pointing it out to everyone. But this drama is just getting started. 50 Cent is. Well, did he clap back?
This happened. So super tragic. Again, no foul play, I think, but we're still trying to figure out, was this accidental? Did he do it on purpose? Was he on stuff that made him do it? Where did he get these substances is another big question. Many outlets trying to figure out and secure the dealer, like who gave this to him. So there's still a lot of questions regarding that. Fans are now also livid at his ex-girlfriend. Reports coming in from people saying that he was extremely overwhelmed by legal issues with his ex, Maya, before his death. And now One Direction fans are harassing her, saying it's her fault. It's getting pretty ugly there. She, didn't help matters by calling it out and making it a thing on her TikTok literally days ago, talking to the One Direction haters directly, calling them out. I hate TikTok. It never plays when you need it to play. But there it is. She was calling them out, saying, you don't know the full story, so you can't chime in on this.
And kind of break it down. So I've been seeing ones like this everywhere.
They're called.
Honestly, ones that say she needs to keep his name out of her mouth. She's obsessed, blah, blah, blah. They broke up years ago. Well, I made a 5-second TikTok about something he talked about on a podcast.
I don't even get on this. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. You can have your feelings on this, but this is where it's now getting uglier. More and more posts regarding this issue. It's just really depressing. It's depressing because this kid had a 7-year-old kid. And obviously depressing because he was only 31 years old. And on his birthday this past August, he talked about his son, who he shares with a separate ex, Cheryl Cole. I didn't get any dad socks yet, but I'm going to speak to my son in a little bit, which I'm really excited about. Bless him. He didn't really ever show his kid, but he always talked to the fans about his kid. Clearly very in love with his boy. He's so big now. He's a big boy, and he looks like a mini me, as if we need any more me in the world. But clearly very in love with his son. Here we are now, Daddy, bless him, made me want to cry. He said something really cute this week because I can see a lot of myself in him. He was like, "Oh, we need here now, Daddy, bless him, made me want to cry." Look, that's awful, man. It's awful how this is going to affect the kid and so many others. This man was way too young. It's so tragic what he got caught up in. Addiction really is a killer. It's so bad. It's so hard to break down and get out of. And I feel for him. I will wait for more information to come in, but this clip is hard to deny. So many of you have been sending it to me. Again, I don't think there's any connection here personally, but it's just haunting and eerie to see this clip now, knowing all we did as we look back at Liam and things he said. Let's watch.
I had that with P. Diddy. I went over to say hello to P. Diddy, and Jay-Z was there, and Leonardo DiCaprio was sat at the
All
far
right, I
side.
think you've dropped enough names. I think people thought Prince and Brian Ferry was good. We don't need to hear about other people who are in the room. Just stick on the people the story's about.
Wish this guy would shut up. It's almost like he's saving Leo. which we're going to talk about in depth later today and tomorrow at Friday, 12 noon Eastern on members only section here and on Patreon. We're going to talk about Diddy and Leo. You're not going to miss it. I'll put more details in the pinned comment in the description, so check it out. Also, part 2 of our interview with Dale about Leo. Again, you're not going to miss these two. We'll talk about this as well. I digress. Let's go back to the clip.
So I went over and I thought, I was trying to think who's the easy target in this scenario. Who's the one that you go to say the hello? And I'm thinking, I saw him in Get Him to the Greek. I'm going to go over there and say hello to him. So I thought, P. Diddy.
To Diddy.
So I went out to shake his hand. And I shook his hand and I was, oh, nice to meet you. And he's just going, but the longest handshake ever. And I'm like sat there just looking in P. Diddy's eyes like, when is this going to end? And then the worst of it happened. The worst of it happened. There was a whole thing with Jay-Z and I went to lean in to speak to him. But you can't lean in to speak to Jay-Z. You're not allowed to lean in. And his bodyguard just, like, shoved me like this, and I went flying across the room. And I was like, right, I'm just going to go and sit over here with Eddie Golden. That's me, thank you, that's enough. Very awkward moment.
Strange, man. This is strange. Evil laugh. Fearful of Diddy, when are you gonna let go, what's going on, all these things now, knowing what we know, are definitely creepier. There's just and then yeah, everybody seems to know, yeah, Diddy's weird, Diddy's creepy, but you can almost hear an innocence here from Liam, where he's just like, are you gonna let go, what's going on, not knowing what we know now through all these lawsuits allegedly, where Diddy would be almost, I can't say the word, but you know, searching for the right person to see who's down. Are you DTF? Or can I just have my way? That's the things we're learning. And it does seem like this clip sort of implies he got away. Thank God to hear that. But watching this now, after knowing of the tragic loss, it makes the whole thing just a lot more.
Hold up. You know 50 ain't gonna just run his mouth without backing it up. This time, he's coming with receipts that'll make your jaw drop. What's he got on Diddy that got the whole industry shook? 50 Cent just dropped a bomb on social media, and it's got everyone talking. He's not just throwing shade, he's accusing Diddy of some serious stuff. According to 50, Diddy's been using young artists like Liam Payne as pawns in his twisted game of industry chess. He's saying Diddy lured Liam in with promises of hip-hop credibility and chart-topping hits, only to leave him high and dry when it suited his own agenda. But that's not even the half of it. 50's spilling tea about how Diddy allegedly set Liam up to fail. He's talking about sabotage studio sessions, deliberately weak promotional efforts, and even pushing Liam towards a sound and image that was never going to work for him. It's like Diddy was playing puppet master, pulling strings to make sure Liam's solo career crashed and burned. Now, you might be thinking, where's the proof? 50 ain't just running his mouth. He's been dropping screenshots of text messages, sharing insider info from studio staff, and even hinting at some financial documents that show how Diddy's been moving money around in suspicious ways. It's like he's been building a case, waiting for the right moment to expose it all. And speaking of timing, why is 50 choosing to speak out now? Some folks are saying it's because he's got a new project coming out and wants the publicity, but others think it might be more personal than that. Word on the street is that 50 might be looking out for another young A.
A hotel manager reportedly called 911 and reported that there was a guest who was at the hotel who was overwhelmed with drugs and alcohol. That was the way it was described. He was smashing up the hotel room and they needed assistance. So this was an emergency type call. The operator questioned the claim about drugs and alcohol being involved, but the manager seems to insist that there are drugs and alcohol, this guest is out of control, and we need help and assistance here. Then expressed concern that the guest's life was at risk, noting that the individual had been staying in the room for 2 to 3 days. This is Liam who they're talking about, and mentioned that the hotel balcony was a concern. So you can imagine that maybe the scenario is playing out and he's threatening perhaps jumping from the hotel balcony. So a very, very serious sort of frenetic call in these final moments. And by the time the cops arrive, Liam had fallen or jumped to his death from that third floor room. It was about 40 to 45 feet high, and he perished from the injuries that he sustained during that fall. we're getting a picture that's starting to be painted, right, Charlie? Like, we've heard that witnesses in the lobby beforehand saw him behaving erratically, smashing a laptop, maybe having to be escorted up to his room because he was causing a scene in the public lobby, carried up, escorted up. In any event, he was not in the right headspace in the moments before his death. This seems to lend credibility to the idea that this was an impulsive act rather than something that was considered for a long time, which suggests that drugs and alcohol may have been involved. He battled these demons.
Right. I mean, yeah, he did battle these demons publicly for years. And he had, friends and family and girlfriends and ex-girlfriends talking about their concern for the pop star who had obviously was going down a path. And he himself, would talk about death and just just existential type, like he didn't think he was going to be around forever, apparently. And so
he was really a tormented artist,
Yes,
right? And he
yes.
had discussed openly, as you said, severe, I think he described them as severe suicidal thoughts. At a point in time, he had done a stint in rehab where he had maybe straightened out for a period of time. But this was a constant struggle for Liam. He was also one of the principal songwriters for One Direction. And sometimes artists, their greatness comes from this kind of torment and turmoil, and that's where the creativity is drawn from. So you can imagine this sort of tortured artist writing these lyrics and just sort of wrestling with a lot of issues that he was able to, channel into art. And sometimes it gets the better of you.
So the cops arrive, having responded to a call about Liam being aggressive, and they arrive at the hotel, and it's too late. He's already dead. What happens from there? They go and they see that they can't revive him. People at the hotel, I imagine, are shocked. What happens around the scene, when this happens?
Yeah, look, Buenos Aires is a developed part of the world. I mean, they have the same or similar protocols that we have in the United States. First responders will come. There have been photos of setting up a perimeter around what is the scene of the event. They obviously cover up the body down there, but there's a lot of hotel guests, and there's going to be lurid pictures and witness accounts of this because it was done in such a public setting. Buenos Aires is a huge city. There was nothing they could do to revive him, apparently, from the injuries that he sustained from the fall. Maybe serious blunt force trauma, head injuries, things of that nature. His death was likely swift, and there was nothing that they could do. And now there will be an investigation. I mean, they have to do an investigation. We'll hear more details come out from the police and so forth, so they can determine the cause of death. Because as you said, a fall, a jump, they're treating it as an apparent suicide at this point. That's what all of the evidence to this point shows. No foul play or anything of that nature. But it does remain to be seen. You have to sort of continue to follow this story, and that's why I think the coverage will be important to sort of keep up with.
These accusations are like a grenade in the music industry, and the shrapnel is flying everywhere. If what 50 is saying is true, it could seriously damage Diddy's reputation and business empire. We're talking about potential lawsuits, lost deals, and a whole lot of artists side-eyeing any offers from Diddy's camp. As for Liam, this could be a make-or-break moment. If people believe he was set up to fail, it might give him a second chance at a solo career. But if they think he was just in over his head, it could be the final nail in the coffin for his pop star dreams. The initial reaction to 50's bombshell has been wild. Social media is blowing up with people taking sides. Some are praising 50 for exposing the dark side of the industry, while others are calling him a clout chaser. Liam's fans are rallying behind him, demanding justice and a chance for him to tell his side of the story. And Diddy? Well, his supporters are saying it's all lies, but a lot of people are noticing that he's been real quiet since 50 started spilling the tea. But wait, there's more to this story than just what 50 is saying. This whole situation is opening up a can of worms about how the music industry really works behind the scenes. People are starting to ask questions about other artists who seemingly disappeared after working with big-name producers or...
Now, one last thing to add about as TMZ has been reporting on this, shame on TMZ. Just want to properly call TMZ out because we saw this. We broke this yesterday, and we broke this news while we were live. It was happening. We got it actually, people were telling us rumors before it even went on TMZ, which is usually calls out. I'm not trying to take credit for it, but I say that because we saw it happen live on the show yesterday, where as TMZ was breaking the news with this very article, They showed pictures of his body on the floor. It was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting of TMZ. And there's a lot of outrage online, as there should be. TMZ has now quietly removed those images. They're like, well, we just showed the arm to show you that it's his tattoos to confirm it. It's like, bro, you don't show anybody's body who's unalived on the floor, even just a part of it. That's disgusting. They have no shame, TMZ. They're the worst. And they've now thankfully removed it, but still talking about it in here. TMZ has seen a photo. You showed the whole world the photo showing his body on the deck. You can clearly see his tattoos. And the previous version, which we had in our live out of accident because we didn't know what we were looking at, shame on them. They are disgusting. They have no remorse, no shame. I think legally they did finally remove it because they realized, oh crap, we can't show that. But shame on them. And sending so much love and positivity out to Liam's family, friends. This is just a heartbreaking loss that so many are still very shocked by. A lot of reactions pouring in. In fact, we just got notice as we're here. AGT, I guess BG, Britain's Got Talent is now canceled. Now, for those that don't know, they were discovered through, I guess it was the X Factor, Simon's other show. Yeah, he's now obviously, it's a loss for all these guys. It's a super big loss. This is a really sad day. This kid was way too young. I call him a kid. 31, still to me a kid, younger than me. He had so much life left. So many fans out there wanting to support him, and he was clearly struggling behind the scenes. There are clips of him now talking about how he held it well. I send so much love to his family, especially his son. This is a sad day.
Speaking of industry secrets, let's talk about the man behind the curtain. Diddy's been running the game for decades, but at what cost? The streets are whispering about a dark side to his success that'll make you question everything you thought you knew about the music biz. Let's be real. Diddy's not just a rapper or a producer. He's a whole empire. From Bad Boy Records to Ciroc Vodka, this man's got his fingers in more pies than a bakery. He's been shaping the sound of hip-hop and R&B for years, launching careers and making hits. But with great power comes great. Well, let's just say not everyone's singing Diddy's praises. Now, this ain't the first time Diddy's name has been mixed up in some messy situations. Remember when he was accused of holding artists' publishing rights hostage, or those whispers about using ghostwriters for his own tracks? And let's not forget the drama with Maud Ollery, who claimed Diddy was still profiting off his music years after he left the label. It's like every success story coming out of Bad Boy has a dark twin hiding in the shadows. But what about all these young artists Diddy's supposed to be mentoring? Girl, it's a mixed bag. For every Biggie Smalls or Mary J. Blige, there's a string of artists who seem to fade faster than your ex's texts. Remember Donny Kane? Day 26? It's like they were hot 1 minute, then poof, gone without a trace. And now with these accusations about Liam, people are starting to connect the dots. So, why would someone like Diddy even bother sacrificing an artist's career? It sounds crazy, but in this industry, sometimes it's about more than just the music. We're talking about power plays, market manipulation, and keeping that top dog status. Some folks are saying it